The city of Kuching slept under a blanket of humidity and streetlights. Rising above the rooftops was a shed that did not belong. The Civic Center looked like a giant spaceship made of grey concrete, resting on tall, thick legs. In 1988, it was a place of joy and light, full of families visiting the planetarium. But time had been cruel. The paint had peeled away like dead skin, and the lights had gone out long ago. Now it stood like a silent guard in the darkness. At 2 a.m., 3 shadows moved near the perimeter fence. Mark, Sarah, and James were explorers who looked for secrets in abandoned places. They did not believe in ghosts. They only believed in the thrill of the climb. Mark signaled to the others. They moved quietly past the sleeping security guard in the booth. Near the old car park, they found a gap in the fence. One by one, they slipped through the hole and entered the grounds of the silent tower. The elevators were broken, sealed shut with rust and out of order signs. The only way up was the stairs. The group entered the stairwell, a cold spiral of concrete that seemed to go up forever. The air inside was different from the warm night air outside. It was heavy and cold. It smelled like wet moss and old water trapped in rusty pipes. They climbed flight after flight. The sound of their footsteps echoed loudly against the walls. Click-clack, click-clack. It sounded like the building was clicking its tongue at them. As they passed the empty floors, Sarah stopped. She sniffed the air. The smell had changed. It was no longer just mold. It smelled sharp and metallic, like old coins or wet copper. It was the smell of blood. James told her not to worry, shining his light upward into the dark throat of the stairwell, promising they were almost at the top. Mark pushed open the heavy steel door at the top of the stairs. They stepped out onto the viewing deck, and the wind hit them hard. The view was breathtaking. The city of Kuching was spread out below them like a carpet of golden lights. The Sarawak River shined in the distance. For a moment, the fear and the bad smell were forgotten. They laughed and celebrated their victory. James raised his camera to take photos of the skyline, capturing the beauty of the sleeping city. They felt like kings of the world, standing on top of the abandoned tower. They thought they were alone. They thought the city did not know they were there. But as Mark scanned the deck with his flashlight, his smile faded. He lowered his hand and pointed toward the far end of the curved walkway. At the very edge of the railing, in the darkest corner of the deck, someone was standing. It was a figure facing away from them, looking out at the deadly drop. The figure did not look like a security guard or another explorer. It was a girl. She stood out because of the color. In a world of grey concrete and black shadows, she was a shock of bright red. She was wearing a long, flowing red dress that looked too formal for a room. Her hair was black, long and messy, whipping wildly around her head in the strong wind. James called out to her, thinking she was a lost tourist. "Hey, you are not supposed to be up here," he shouted. The girl did not answer. She did not move. She stood as still as a statue. Sarah felt a cold knot in her stomach. The metallic smell of blood was overpowering now, choking the fresh air on the roof. She grabbed Mark's arm tightly. "Mark," she whispered, her voice shaking. "Look at her feet." Mark lowered his flashlight beam. The light cut across the concrete floor and hit the bottom of the red dress. The hem of the dress was fluttering in the wind, tattered and dirty. But underneath the dress, there was nothing. There were no shoes. There were no feet. The girl was not standing on the deck. She was hovering 6 inches above the ground. The 3 friends froze, their minds unable to accept what they were seeing. Slowly, the girl in the red dress began to turn. She did not walk, she rotated in the air. Mark kept his flashlight trained on her, unable to look away. As the light hit her face, Sarah wanted to scream, but no sound came out. The girl had no face. Where her eyes, nose and mouth should have been, there was only smooth, pale skin. It looked like a blank sheet of paper. But as the bright light hit the blank skin, a tear appeared. It was not a tear of water. The skin ripped open where an eye should be. A thick, black tear rolled down the smooth, featureless face. She did not speak. She simply raised a pale hand and pointed a finger past them, toward the center of the building. She was pointing at the broken elevator shaft. The heavy steel doors, which had been rusted shut for 20 years, suddenly groaned. With a screeching sound of metal on metal, they slid open. Behind the doors was a deep black hole falling into nothingness. Panic took over Mark, Sarah and James, spun around to run back to the stairwell door. But before they could reach it, the door slammed shut with a thunderous bang. Mark pulled on the handle, but it was locked tight. They were trapped. The pressure on the roof dropped. Mark's nose began to bleed, dripping red onto his shirt. James fell to his knees, clutching his head, screaming that the wind was speaking to him. An invisible force began to pull them backward, dragging their feet across the concrete toward the open black mouth of the elevator shaft. The faceless girl watched without moving as the darkness swallowed them whole. The next morning, the sun rose over Kuching. The security guard found the stairwell door unlocked. He checked the roof. It was empty. There were no footprints. There was no red dress. Mark, Sarah and James were never reported missing, because according to the logbook, they never entered. The government says they are fixing the Civic Center now. They are painting the walls and repairing the lights. They want to make it new again. But I wonder, when they put in the new elevators, will the passengers be alone? Explorers who go there now say the same thing. If you put your ear against the cold steel of the elevator's doors, you can hear scratching. You can hear 3 voices whispering for help from the deep dark. Until next time, keep your doors locked. This is the Grizzly Archive. Please like and subscribe. Thank you very much.